How's it going, my friends? Welcome back to another Snake Meal video. My name is Connor, and if there's one thing you should know about me, it's that I freaking love the GameCube. I love it so much that I thought it'd be fun to discuss some titles on it that I've never played before here on this channel. The game I'll be covering first is Viewtiful Joe. I had a great time playing this and have a lot to say about it. So sit back, relax, and join me as I do a deep dive on this often forgotten cult classic.
This movie is ours!
I don't think so! Here we go, everybody! Henshin, a go-go, baby!
Back in 2002, Capcom announced 5 games that would be released exclusively for the GameCube. The intent of this decision was to help boost GameCube sales and show third-party developer support for the console. The games in question were PN03, Viewtiful Joe, Dead Phoenix, RE4, and Killer 7. All projects were overseen by Resident Evil creator Shinji Mikami, and nearly all of them were praised by critics and fans alike. Viewtiful Joe was directed by Hideki Kamiya of similar Resident Evil fame. He, along with the newly formed Team of Viewtiful, developed Joe over the course of 21 months. It won IGN's Game of the Year in 2003 and earned a ton of awards on their other publications as well. Despite its success, Viewtiful Joe did not reach the sales levels that Capcom desired, so it was ported over to the PS2 a year later. All the other exclusive titles of the Capcom 5 would receive the same treatment, with the exception being PN03. The game is a side-scrolling beat-em-up that takes heavy inspiration from American comic books and tokusatsu media. Tokusatsu is a Japanese term for movies or TV that utilize a ton of practical effects. Popular examples would be the early Godzilla films and Super Sentai, or Power Rangers for us here in the West. Many aspects of the game pay homage to the great art of filmmaking. Levels are categorized as episodes, loading screens are displayed as countdown leaders, sprocket holes are often visible on the screen, and when you die, a director screams out at you,
Cut! Cut! Cut!
Needless to say, it's incredibly charismatic, especially for someone like me who freaking loves movies. Our star, Joe, similarly geeks out for movies. The game opens with him and his girlfriend Sylvia watching a showing of Captain Blue. As the couple is enjoying their date night, characters from the movie suddenly reach out of the screen and pull them into their world. With Sylvia nowhere to be found, Joe must begin his quest to find and save her. While exploring the world behind the silver screen, Joe bumps into Captain Blue, who gives him a V-Watch. This V-Watch transforms Joe into a superhero and is activated by saying, Henshin. From here, Joe hones his newfound abilities while beating up some baddies. By holding the R trigger, Joe uses the VFX effect of the Mach speed, which allows him to move at the speed of sound. Attacking at Mach speed will set Joe aflame and summon duplicates of himself. The fire won't affect you, but it can stick to enemies to stack on damage. The L trigger inversely slows down time, which is an essential tool in combat and can be used to hit projectiles back to their sender. Pushing B, or up on the C stick, zooms in the camera for Joe to use more powerful attacks. Outside of combat, these powers are also used to traverse the world and solve puzzles. For example, in this first episode, there is a segment where you must punch a barrel into the air, then run under it with your Mach speed. Using these powers will drain your VFX gauge, and once depleted, you'll be temporarily turned back to Joe without his powers. You'll want to avoid this because not only do you lose your powers, but you lose your double jump as well. Whilst underpowered, the screen inherits a grainy filter and the colors of the level become muted. It's a nice little touch to show how powerless Joe is in this state. Each level, or episode, is divided into acts, with the final act being reserved for a boss battle. Episode 1's boss is the Dark Fiend, Charles III. Charles swoops around Joe as he throws projectiles and makes stalagmites fall from the ceiling. When you hit Charles, he'll explode into a swarm of bats, which you have to hit in order to damage him. Hitting the bats can be inefficient, so there are alternative ways to knock Charles down without him turning into bats. Admittedly, this was something I was unaware of until much later in the game. Upon defeating Charles, the narrator butts in to preview the next episode.
Searching for Sylvia, Joe tries to track clues as to her whereabouts. Little did he know that the clues would only lead him to more problems. The next episode is Some Like It Red Hot. See you there.
This happens at the end of every episode, and reminds me of watching the end of some shonen anime. At the start of episode 2, you'll be running all around the city. The streets are full of enemies, and while you beat them up, it's hard not to take notice of all the stores and billboards that decorate the area. At a certain point in this level, your path will be blocked, which will push the player to explore the sewers for an alternate path. After properly rummaging around in the sewers, you'll enter a towering hotel, which you'll climb floor by floor until ultimately reaching the boss of the episode on the top floor. All levels implement similar creative paths and flow seamlessly together like this. It's awesome. The boss of episode 2 is the Iron Ogre, Hulk Davidson. He'll swing a huge axe at you, charge at you, and call down napalm in a desperate attempt to stop the unwavering force that Joe is. Once Hulk is down for the count, we learn that Jado, the villain organization that Joe has been fighting, has planted a bomb at the bottom of the ocean. Joe quickly calls upon his trusty whip, the Six Machine, to reach this bomb before it goes off. Episode 3 kicks off with a short segment in which you're controlling the Six Machine. It is super similar to those plane levels in Cuphead, with the added benefit of being able to use Joe's VFX powers. This section, I'll admit, is a bit underwhelming. The gameplay here isn't as fun as running around on foot. Still, it's a nice change of pace and it's the only level of its kind. After taking down a Harrier jet, Joe reaches his destination and hops off his plane into an underwater headquarters. Shortly after Joe discovers and disarms the bomb that was threatening the ocean, he runs into the aquatic terror, Grand Bruce. Brucey here isn't very smart, so he mistakenly unveils to Joe that Jado plans to be brought into the real world. He also informs him that the submarine in the background leads straight to their villain headquarters. This boss fight can be a bit annoying the first time you play it. Grand Bruce will puke out enemy fish and attempt to grab you with his powerful jaws. The trick to beating him is leading Bruce into a mine while he is trying to chomp down on you. Occasionally, Bruce will retreat from battle to regain health. You'll have to stay close to him in order to prevent this from happening, because he regains health very fast. Once the aquatic terror is conquered, Joe hops into the submarine, which proceeds to take off into the air. Nice way of subverting expectations, Kamiya. There's a clever part in this level where your progression is halted by these missiles flying across the screen. In order to get past them, you must hit the steering wheel of the vessel to flip the submarine upside down. The level design in this game is top-notch. This episode, to change the subject up a little bit, is where the difficulty of the game really starts to ramp up. The first 3 episodes aren't easy, but they pale in comparison to the rest of the game. Dangerous obstacles have ridiculous hitboxes, and newly introduced enemies can take you out in just a couple hits. The boss of this area is another Joe, or a clone Joe, if you will. He has all of Joe's moves, even being able to summon a Six Machine of his own that will rain down bombs onto the player. If you give him too much space, he'll summon clones to attack you. If you get hit by one of these clones, you are likely getting hit by multiple. The key to this fight, just like old Brucey, is to keep on him to prevent these attacks from starting up. When the clone is defeated, he turns into a mysterious dark-winged figure and flies off. This will be the boss for the next episode, and he is easily my favorite character in this game. To cap out this episode, the submarine is hit with a barrage of missiles, flipping the level layout once again for your grand escape. The following episode takes place in the city once more, but now at nighttime. Despite this being the same area as before, it feels way different. The area has been reinforced with much stronger enemies, including a bunch of vehicles that you'll have to take out. The sewers are now full of lava as well, making traversal down there much more dangerous. And finally, at the end of the episode, you don't enter a hotel, but hop on top of a train that is speeding out of control. You'll have to fight your way through all the carts on this train in the second act to reach the brakes. With the brakes activated and the train stopped, we are finally introduced to the mysterious figure from last episode. He is this devilish looking dude whose aim is to test his own strength against Joe. His name is the Blade Master, Alistair. This is a not so subtle reference to Devil May Cry. Dante's sword in the first game is called Alistair, which is a living devil arm nicknamed the Thunder Sword. This is likely where the idea for Alistair to control purple lightning in Viewtiful Joe comes from. While battling Alistair, you'll have to run around a circular arena dodging all of his attacks to give him the old 1-2. This is easily one of the most fun fights in the game, and ends just as epically. Upon defeat, Alistair is blown away at the sheer awesomeness of Joe, which leads into Joe finally finding out what his hero name should be.
Tell me, what do they call you? Beautiful. Well, yeah, that works. I'm Joe. Viewtiful Joe.
This next episode, oh man, this next episode. In this part of the game, you have to face off against the first 4 bosses in a row. Their health bars have been beefed up, and their attacks are much stronger than before. If you lose all your lives, you have to start the whole ordeal over again, starting with the first boss. Through my research for this video, I found out that this is the level where a lot of players put down the controller never to pick it up again. It makes sense, this part is mad tough. You can make it to this part of the game without really mastering the mechanics, but if you want to pass this part and save Sylvia, you're gonna have to buckle down and get good. Once you beat the Fucktastic 4, we finally catch up with Sylvia, who is imprisoned by the Infernal Lord, Fire Leo. This boss is no joke either. To beat him, you'll have to use your Mach Speed ability to punch these rocks to light yourself aflame. While on fire, the fireballs that Leo shoots at you will be ineffective, and you can run up to him and break his flame barrier. From here, you have to break Leo's shield, then he'll start spinning around and unleashing a flurry of attacks. You must dodge 5 of these attacks in a row to make him dizzy. Once he is dizzy, you can then start properly whacking on him. It's a wild battle. If you're looking for a challenge, this boss, and by extension this level, will definitely give it to you. With Leo defeated, Joe and Sylvia finally reunite. Joe's epic quest has finally been completed. That is until a giant hand once again swoops Sylvia away. Joe follows Sylvia to a space station, where the final level will take place. The Star Wars inspiration is worn pretty proudly on the sleeve for this part. Oh, and look, it's Rob.
I am an evil robot. I will take over humanity if you don't subscribe to Snake Meal.
In the space station, you'll face off against a ton of Robo-Leos. For a game like this, making the previous boss into a normal enemy is nothing short of a stroke of genius. It was unbelievably satisfying beating these dudes and seeing how much I have improved as a player. During the final climax of the game, it is revealed that Captain Blue was the one who kidnapped Sylvia and is responsible for everything that has been set in motion. In an epic reveal, he tells us that he is Sylvia's father, and that he needs her in order to bring Movie Land into the real world. Joe, heartbroken, exclaims that he'll show him who a true hero really is. And he does just that, but not before jumping into a giant mech suit to prepare for battle. While in the mech suit, you'll stomp around the circumference of the planet while Blue unleashes a variety of deadly attacks. When you defeat Blue in his mech suit, you'll then have to face off against him once more mano a mano. Fighting Blue in this manner is pretty easy, as you faced off against him a couple times in other episodes while he was teaching you your abilities. After getting his ass handed to him, Blue realizes that he was in the wrong. He apologizes to Joe and Sylvia and tells them his backstory. Blue was once a popular movie director who was forgotten about over the course of time. Then, just like Joe, he was sucked into movie land and lived out his life as a hero. During his time behind the silver screen, Blue slowly lost his grip with reality, and the seed of evil grew in his heart. Now, with everybody all buddy-buddy, the shot zooms out to show the gang being applauded by a ton of moviegoers. The world of Movie Land is finally at peace. At least for a bit, because almost like clockwork, the computer system alerts the crew that there is an alien invasion. With the new threat introduced, Sylvia decides to join in on the battle. She is given a V-Watch and turns into Sexy Sylvia. If you beat the game on adult difficulty, you can now play as Sexy Sylvia, which is a really nice reward. Sylvia moves significantly faster than Joe, but other than that, she has the same moves with slightly different animations. The next episode segments are removed while playing as her, but all the interactions you have with Jado are altered, making a second playthrough feel fresh. As the credits roll, posters of each of the episodes are displayed. Shout out to Alistair's episode poster looking identical to the DMC logo. A post-credit scene shows a music video performed by characters from the game. How much you'll get out of this is up to you. I personally thought it was kinda weird, but still, I would rather have something like this than nothing, so I respect it. In addition to being able to play as Sylvia, a new V-rated difficulty will be unlocked. In this mode, the indicators that warn the player of an attack are removed, so there's an even greater challenge for those who desire it. If you beat the game on this difficulty, Alistair is unlocked as a playable character. So that's Viewtiful Joe. It's an entirely wacky game with a rough learning curve, but it's fantastic. Everything from the gameplay to the art direction kept me hooked for my entire playthrough. I definitely recommend this game for those of you who have not had the pleasure of playing it. With all that being said, we are at the end of this video, so allow me to thank you for watching and stay tuned for more content. Cameron and I are working on releasing more stuff, and I will 100% cover the sequel to this game in the future. Have a good one, everybody.